Alright guys, Massey 1105 driver here. I'm going to do a little quick update video and talk about a couple pieces of equipment. First one here is the disc, my 12-foot international disc. It's old as dirt, but you can still get most of the parts for it. And an issue I had with it here, and it's been an ongoing thing for a couple years that I finally addressed, was these front two gangs. Okay, the front two gangs, probably over in this neighborhood toward the center, I had about 3 discs that would just spin. They were loose and they would just spin. Okay, as you can see there, those are tight. And the reason they're tight, and this nut's just on there to protect the threads. This nut's the one doing all the work. And the flat piece, I only folded down half of it that keeps that nut from spinning in this block. See, that block's, you probably can't tell, but that block has a groove in it. That flat plate sits in and you bend it over your nut to keep it from spinning, since it doesn't have like a castle nut and a cotter pin that goes through it. But anyhow, and it was the same deal on the other side, except the 2 loose ones were, or there were 3, and they were out on the end here. See, there's the end. It was this one, this one, this one were a little loose. And the way I fixed this one, because this shaft had broke on me probably 10 years ago, and I replaced the shaft and everything was good up until recently, but I took a sledgehammer and I beat this bracket over just a hair, because it seemed like even with it tight, it didn't want to draw these 3 in. So I moved this bracket a little bit, got it over against the bearing, or moved the bearing over against that spacer a little better and got it tight. But the other side, I'll show you what the issue was with that. It was actually the shaft. And this could be maybe a little tutorial for anybody with an old disc that is having the same problem. Here's a new shaft. I got a new shaft because I wasn't sure on that other one. This is the old one from that one side. And you can see here, and I'll try and get down here close. See that groove? That groove is worn in this enough. There were 3 of them that were real bad. There's another one, and then there was another one. But that groove is so bad that the discs were spinning on that. So no matter if you had it tight or not, they would spin, because it wasn't square like this one. They were rounded off. And there's a couple others that were real close. The sun in there. A couple others that were real close to being bad, but they weren't spinning on that. And then you get out here on the end and it was actually in decent shape yet. But that was the issue with that. I put that new shaft in, put everything back on, tightened it up, and it's tight now. So that was the issue with the disc. So if you have an old disc with loose disc blades and you have your nut tight and you don't know what could be wrong, if as long as your spacers are good and everything and your bearings, that could be your issue. If you have a square shaft, it could be rounded. And of course I don't have an old disc blade to show you, but the disc blades are a square center. They're like 1 by 1.1 inches. That shaft is 1 1/8 on this old IH. And every disc is different. It seems like there's 1, 1 1/8, 1 1/4, 1 1/2. There's round 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1 3/4. I mean, there's just all kinds of different sizes. So, but that was the issue with mine. It's fixed now. It's ready to roll. I just need a couple shots of grease and a couple zerks on this, and this thing would be good to go. I won't be using it this year. Everything I'm doing is no-till, but I have a friend we're having some issues with his disc, and if we can't get it fixed before it's time to go, this one will get a little work in. Next thing is the grain drill. John Deere 750 grain drill. I'm changing I'm only going to use the rear end on this, the rear 12 rows, 15-inch rows for beans. And after a little consulting with some friends and the internet, I determined that these rear blades needed changed. The front ones need changed too, but since I'm not using them, I'm not going to worry about them. But you see this, there's about 3/4 of an inch around. The new blades are 18-inch. They recommend, Deere does, once you get to 17-inch on your old one, to replace them. And these are about 16.5. So that's why they're being replaced. And usually what happens is when that disc blade gets under 17 inches, it starts wearing on your seed boot. And of course this darn sun, okay. And you can see here, there's, of course the sun, I don't know how you can see that, but there's about a 1/2 inch groove on this old one wore off compared to a new one that's underneath it. So that's why that's worn. Now there's another thing that I have found or discovered on these boots. See these, I've got 3 rows done so far because it rains every damn day. This boot, if you can see it, moves up and down a little bit, and that'll affect the depth placement of the seed being more consistent. And what it is, and it's going to be real hard to see this with the sun, but there you can see the end of the bolt. There's a bolt that goes through there, and there's a spring in that. It's a real SOB to change these by yourself. It's near impossible unless you have a clamp or something, but there's a bolt that goes through the seed boot, and then there's a spot on the arm, maybe up here, there. You can see that bolt. And there's 3 holes on the arm down here. If I can get my hand in there. I got my finger on the bottom side, but anyhow, they recommend the middle hole, and that hole wears on that arm, and they have a kit to rebush that and this and that. I'm not going to worry about that for right now. No more acres and I have to plant with this thing. I'm just going to go with it with the new boots and discs, and then either late this summer or next spring I will work on that and try and get that issue resolved. And then something I didn't realize Shoot carried, but they do on these. I only want to use every other row, and they make this handy dandy little plastic cover that fits in there and snaps right in your hole, and that'll plug. I can plug I got 12 of them to plug every other hole with, and that's pretty neat because on my old drill, my International, I have every other hole plugged, and I just took some sheet metal, thin sheet metal, and cut squares and then duct taped them in place so they wouldn't move to block those off. This is a heck of a lot easier, and then they can come right back out if I decide to play any small grains with this, which is my game plan also. There we go. Which would be my game plan this fall. I'd like to sow some rye in behind the beans to help with some compaction issues and whatnot. So, but I did get the hoses hooked up and ran everything. The arms work well, it raises and lowers well. Basically this thing, once I get the boots and the disc changed, I'm ready to get it to the field and try and figure out adjusting to get my population correct. In which you move these slides, there's one on either side. So I'll have to look in the book and figure out, and I'll have to, it'll be trial and error, figuring out how many seeds to put down. I'll get into that in another video, but weather-wise, of course, you know, you can see it's sunny, bright sunny day, warm, mid-60s. This has been the nicest day this week, other than, I forget what day it was. Monday was nice. So Monday and today, Sunday, this is Sunday the Cinco de Mayo, have been the nicest days of the week. Every other day it has rained and been chilly. So there will be no field work around here for some time yet. I would assume at least a week and a half to 2 weeks based on the amount of rain we've had and getting fields dried out and whatnot, because everything is a soupy mess and there's water laying and whatnot. But I don't know, I kind of like the looks of that. I can't wait to get in the field and run that. But anyhow, the disc and the drill's almost ready to roll, be soon, and this would be ready to run if need be. Here's my 18-foot International Vibra-Shank field cultivator. It probably won't move. And my 12-foot John Deere Cultimulcher down here probably won't move either. Unless something happens to my friend's stuff and he needs it, they'll just sit here. But anyhow, that's what's going on around here. So thanks for watching, and hopefully before too long we'll have some planting videos.